Hi everyone, this is Kara and Alexander back with another comic chat. This month we are talking about the Eisner nominees. So we picked four of them that we really like, but there are more that we also like that we're also going to mention here. So stick with us, but these four are really top notch. And Alexander is going to go first with Superman Smashes the Klan.
Yep. So I wanted to cover I had lofty ambitions to cover all the teen and 9 to 12 nominees, but that was 12 books and things got really busy. So I only am focusing on the 9 to 12s, and I want to give a quick few honorable mentions to Go with the Flow, Mr. Invincible, and Twins. And Snapdragon. Those are the four that I'm not going to talk about. They were all great. They're all worth your time. Go look them up. Go check them out, please. But first, Superman Smashes the Klan. This is, oh, you can't even see it there,
Yeah.
but I'll share my screen. It is my pick for to win this category. It's Jean Lun Yang and Gurihiru, and you might know Gurihiru from Avatar: The Last Airbender, the comics. It looks just like it. So here, let me show you guys a good panel that really illustrates what's great about this comic. So it's, as the title indicates, Superman is fighting the Klan. In this Klan, it's the Clan of the Sacred Cross, the Clan of the Burning Cross, and it also follows a Chinese immigrant family that's moving to Metropolis as the father of the family is taking a job at the health department. Then there's a burning cross on their lawn. Superman comes to save the day, but Superman, you notice in this, is running on power lines and only punching. Because it's also a parallel story about Superman getting over his internalized anxieties about being a literal alien. And you see in this panel right here, he encounters kryptonite for the first time. It drains him of his powers, and then he starts remembering things from his childhood that his parents tried to keep from him as they were raising him in Smallville. Just kind of how he's holding himself back because he wants to fit in, because he doesn't want to feel like an other. He wants to come and just be another regular old human normal kid, when that's extremely difficult to do when you can shoot laser beams from your eyes and fly and see through objects. And but what I love about it is he gets this parallel journey with the daughter of the family, who is also trying to kind of like preserve her own heritage while still being just a normal kid that has a normal life. And I'm not going to spoil anything else about it, but I just, everyone should read this one. This is an excellent one, and it's what you love about Superman. The same thing that you love about Steve Rogers is that they're always standing up for what's right, even if it's unpopular. And even if the bad guys are like, no, you should be on our team. I mean, that's the whole point of both of them, is to say, your team's a bunch of racist idiots. Like, why in the world would you think that I'd want to be part of you? But just excellent comic. And yeah, you really get to see he's even Superman internalizes otherness. No one's immune.
I love that parallelism because I think it's always been part of Superman's story where people are like, he's an alien, he can't be trusted. So I like that um, this draws those parallels closer together. And it's funny because we've talked before about how, Superman comics are kind of difficult because he's like,
He's gonna win.
yeah, he's too powerful to kind of have some of the other struggles that the other characters have, but he does have struggles because of his otherness. So
Mm-hmm.
like
And
that.
I just always appreciate too that oh, I almost lost my point there. Oh, he internalizes being an alien, and yet like all he can remember is being born and raised in
Yeah,
Smallville. Like
yeah,
that's about as American as you can get. Like,
right,
so
exactly.
yep. But that segues into your choice
Exactly. We
perfectly.
are talking a lot about Superman today, which is good, I think, because we've talked a lot about Batman in the past, and Superman is another one of my favorite comics to go to, and I don't think I've really ever done a Superman comic here in Comic Chat. This is not exactly a Superman comic. It is the full title is Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen, Who Killed Jimmy Olsen, and this is just I love this comic so much. When I started it, it was kind of it took a while for me to get into it, but the further you get into it, like the more complicated it gets. So basically, the premise here is um, there is a supervillain conspiracy to kill Jimmy Olsen. Usually, he's off limits because he's Superman's pal, but they've put out a hit on him, and different supervillains are trying to kill him, and he doesn't know exactly who's behind this. So he's trying to figure it out, and he doesn't want Superman's help. He wants to be able to do it on his own. So we get to see a lot of different sides of Jimmy Olsen in this comic, and there are a lot of like shorter, I guess, stories within it. So you get kind of like these snippets of all these different plot lines, and then they begin to come together in the end in a really interesting way. So this is just Jimmy sitting in his therapist's office, and she says, Jimmy, the thing I find so interesting about you is this. We want to know what you do, what we see. We see what you see, but we never get to know you. And she kind of says, you have all of these different personas, and these are kind of, some of them here. He's had the persona of the Joker, the persona of the hard journalist, just Superman's pal, and then he gets turned into like random other things. And he says, well, gosh, Doc, if you had to live with all those Jimmy Olsens all the time, you'd be sick of me too. So this is kind of like about how multifaceted Jimmy Olsen is. And to illustrate that, there are a lot of different like kinds of genres and art styles within this comic. So this is like almost like a Peanuts art style. And you'll see, here's Jimmy with his siblings, Julian and Jane. So we get to learn more about Jimmy's family, and not just his immediate family, but his family history. And apparently the Olsens and the Luthers were kind of like the two big families at the beginning of Metropolis, before Metropolis was Metropolis. And there's like a family rivalry that goes way back. So we get to see some like historical old Western type style comics, as well as like they go to space, and all these other different kinds of comic styles within this comic, which is really neat and interesting. There is also a tangent because he has to leave Metropolis to escape the people who are trying to kill him. So he goes first to Gotham, and Batman is supposed to kind of be like watching out for him, but he and Batman get into this kind of like prank feud, because Jimmy is kind of the only person who can like get away with pranking Batman. So it's good fun. And then they go to Opal City later, and all just like all these different places, so you get to see Jimmy like in different environments, which is really nice. And there are a lot of other characters that come into play, but I won't spoil too much of it. So it's really interesting to see how all of these plot lines come together.
I admire your restraint and not immediately leading with Prankwear with Batman.
Yes, it's like my favorite part, but
I'm amazed that wasn't just like Jimmy Olsen's pal, Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. He gets in a Prankwear with Batman, read it, done.
Exactly. But I think that's the benefit of doing like that, they set the comic up like this, so that they can do kind of like whatever they want with it, all these different styles and tangents and whatnot. And every kind of little mini story starts with one of these introductions. There's like a narrator that goes over it. So just like in terms of like the style and the intent here, it's really top notch. It's been nominated in 4 categories: Best Limited Series, Best Humor, Best Writer, and Best Lettering. And you can see like there's a lot of different lettering in here, depending on the art style. So really good.
I love when comics switch genres like that mid comic, or just to like create different eras and create different feels. It's catnip for me. Okay, so I'm going to talk about my runner up, which is a very very close runner up. It's called Doodleville. It's by Chad Sell, and this is one of the cutest little things. So that the conceit for this is that doodles live, and so the main character Drew has a little like town full of doodles, and she lets them run around her parents' diner, and so they run around on the walls and everything, but they always, even though they mean well, they always get in trouble. And then they go on a field trip to the Art Institute of Chicago, and the doodles get out, and she gets most of them back, but she doesn't get all of them. But here, this panel is just when they're all running around the Art Institute. I wish I could make this bigger, but you got Kitty Bunny in the beach scene. You have a couple doodles in the Nighthawks, Monet's lilies. You got the octopus, and they're, look at them, they're all happy and cute. And at one point, one of them steals a baby's hat from a Degas and keeps it the whole rest of the book. But then, in an attempt, like after everyone gets so inspired by these paintings that they go on this field trip for, everyone in her art club, and she's still doing these little doodles, she feels like she needs to dream bigger. So she creates Levi, the Leviathan, who starts out this big, sweet, gentle giant, but then like accidentally gets into a fight with another doodle, and then takes on some of her negative emotions, and then becomes this big villain that is just kind of wreaking havoc amongst her art club. And so the art club unites all their doodles to create like a superhero team to try to fight it, when really what they learn is that instead they should, try to come to terms with what made it bad, like all the dark emotions that created it. But it's what wins it for me is the art is just so good here. And again, it's mixing styles, and it's mixing styles extremely well, and it's using actual like classic art to illustrate to some kids that like there are always different avenues of finding your style, that you are not restricted. Like you aren't great because you are just doing a classical painting or doing impressionistic work. You are great when you put your work into it, you refine your technique. And it's just really really cute, and it flows really well, and good friendships and really good humor, probably the second best humor out of all the 9 to 12 nominees. The funniest one is Mr. Invincible, which I encourage everyone to read. It doesn't have a story arc, it's just little strips, but his superpower is he understands comic panels, so he'll reach into one and punch a dude in an earlier panel, and so it just bends time and space, and it's really neat. But this one's well worth your time. You can check it out on Overdrive, read it in an hour. It's awesome.
I
I'll
love
stop sharing.
that, the whole thing about like creativity and like the pressure to create content is a real thing.
Every kid in it deals with that self-confidence issue. In fact, most of the 9 to 12 books have they're all dealing with self-confidence, every single one of them. So go figure.
Great.
As though it's not something we deal with the rest of our lives.
Right, exactly. Okay, so the next one I'm gonna do is a little darker. Let's get that out of the way.
I've heard a lot about this one, and I've never gotten a chance to read it.
Um, I I don't always go for like this kind of horror, but I did really like it. Um, so basically, this is called Gideon Falls. And yes, it's a horror story mixed with some um, like supernatural elements. So basically, the premise here is Father Wilfred, who he tells everyone to call him Fred. He's a Catholic priest and a recovering alcoholic, and he's sent to Gideon Falls to replace another priest who recently passed away. They he was told that it was a heart attack, but he soon finds out that the way the former priest passed away maybe wasn't quite natural, and that he was involved with this like secret society um, that they're like looking for the Black Barn in the town. And at first he doesn't know what the Black Barn is. I always like to see Catholicism in literature, since I'm Catholic, so I like to see that represented in some way. And I thought the way that they did with this was really interesting, because he keeps on calling his bishop and telling him, like, you got to get me out of this town. And the bishop's saying, this is where you're meant to be. So you don't know if he's part of the conspiracy or if he's just being very spiritual about it. And there's this Black Barn in the town, and this is actually based off of the Black Barn in Twin Peaks, if you were ever a fan.
I was gonna say, how close is this to the Black Lodge? Is there this neat chevron tiling to the?
Yes, I think I could probably find a panel, because they go in, you can see that they're going into the Black Barn. It's kind of like a ghostly barn that just appears places, and only certain people have seen it. So Father Fred sees the barn, but then it disappears, and he kind of has to try to explain himself, and he really doesn't believe that it exists initially, and he doesn't really want to be part of this secret society either. But the secret society believes that the barn is evil, because people go into it and they disappear, and they never come back. So there are people in the town, like kids who have gone missing and stuff like that. There's another parallel story here in a different city. This young man called Norton, he has seen the Black Barn like in dreams and visions since he was a child, and he was raised in foster care. And so he's been in and out of like mental hospitals, and his therapist is trying to convince him, like, you got to let go of this idea. And he has this compulsion to dig through trash, and he comes to realize that the things he finds in the trash that he keeps, they all are items that could build the barn. So he thinks that he's being called to build this barn. So this is the first book in the series. It's not necessarily the one that was nominated, because this was nominated for the best continuing series, but I wanted to read the first one, so I didn't jump right in the middle of it. It was also nominated for best coloring and best writer. So again, we have this kind of like conspiracy going on, a lot of mystery here, and you can see like the coloring is very stark. And obviously it's horror, so there's like blood, and stuff like that. But
This one's not for the 9 to 12s.
Right, exactly. Where it is a darker comic, and it's kind of like about the, kind of like a battle between good and evil. I also read The Question, which has very similar themes. So I didn't want to feature that, but I do want to mention The Question was also nominated, and it is very good. The Question is kind of like an obscure DC superhero. I know him because I used to watch the animated Justice League Unlimited, and I always loved The Question, so that's why I wanted to read that. So definitely go and read that comic, and it's really like politically relevant as well.
Nice. Also, I'd like to point out that Jonathan Hickman has been nominated for an Eisner for the X-Men, and I did not talk about it. I feel like I need a treat for that one.
You have
not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to talk about next month. So I still reserve the right to go right back to talking about X-Men. But as always, we will see you next month for another comics chat. And yeah, keep reading, keep telling us what you read. We need more, always.